So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan here again, and this is another episode of Day to Day Around the House. I've had a couple videos in the past about my dryer. Well, this is another one. However, this time we found the underlying condition that was leading to all the problems with this dryer, and I'm going to show you what it was and how easy it was to fix. So let's get to it. So real quick, before we get into the main part of this video, guys, I wanted to show you how easily lint can ignite. Right here's my shop vac that I used to clean up all the lint, and I'm just pulling some of it off of the actual filter. So that's what I set on top of this little bucket here, and then just quickly took a lighter to it, and look how easily it ignited and started a fire. So I did a quick search online and found out that over 15,000 fires in homes are caused each year by dryers and lint related incidents. So something to keep in mind if you've been postponing like I did with not cleaning out the vent for your dryer, because it's really cheap and really easy to do. Now this dryer is 10 years old. We got it brand new when we bought our house, and it did absolutely great for the first 6 or 7 years. Over the past couple of years, we've had more and more problems with it, and our clothes getting less and less dry, to the point where my wife would have to run a second cycle just to get them dry. We've been through 2 heating elements, and now I actually went through another sensor that I'm going to show you real quick. And we believe all these problems were caused by the fact that our air vent going to the outside was almost completely clogged with lint and debris. So I put my dryer in service mode and did a test on it, and noticed that the heating element once again was not working. However, instead of the heating element itself, it ended up being the thermal cutout switch this time. So the last time I had problems with this dryer, we actually bought an entire kit that included the thermal cutout switch, and I still had the old one that was still good, so I slapped that on. If you want to see how to diagnose all these items on this dryer, I'll post a video at the end of this one you can click on to check that out. So once I put this all back together, I ran the dryer through a test cycle again, and everything was working properly. However, the question still remained is what is causing all these problems with this dryer? So I pulled our dryer out from the wall. You're going to have the hose that attaches from the dryer to the wall. In order to remove those clamps, if you have strong hands, you can just squeeze those together. If not, you might need a pair of pliers. Once getting that off both sides, I took a shop vac and cleaned out that piece of ducting. There ended up being a huge clump of lint that was trapped in the loop at the bottom of that ducting. I also used the shop vac to clean out the exhaust port from the dryer to get any residual lint that was still left in that area. I also stuck the shop vac up into the vent tube that was in the wall. I didn't get a very good video of that, but this is a camera view. You can see that the wall is pretty clean, but once you get up past where the shop vac reached, it's very dirty up in there. At this point, I decided this has been my whole problem with all the issues I've had with my dryer. So I ended up going on Amazon and finding this dryer vent cleaning brush for $23. Then I paid an extra $3 for same-day shipping, and that thing was at my doorstep within 3 hours. While I was waiting for that brush to show up, I decided to figure out where the vent was actually going to in my house. So the access to the attic in the house just happens to be in the laundry room, so I opened that up, and you can see the ducting running straight up to the roof. There was also this other ducting going to the fan in the laundry room. So I went outside, looked on my roof, and I've got both vents here. So the one on the right is actually the dryer vent, and then the one on the left is for that fan. So you'll just have to go through a similar fashion to find out where yours is going out of your house. They also might come out of the side of the house and might have some kind of a vent looking like this. So if your vent is coming out of the side of your house, it's probably going to be a lot less problematic because you don't have all that excess gravity fighting you going all the way out through the top of the roof, but it's still worth looking at. So I got up on the roof, and this is what the dryer vent looked like. So to remove this cap, it should have required a screwdriver and a wrench. However, apparently nobody tightened it down 10 years ago, so I was able to just pull it right off. This thing was pretty much clogged solid with lint and debris. I got as much of it out by hand as I could. This is the actual cap after flipping it over. Once cleaning that out, I went ahead and set it back on the stack and tightened the clamp down so it actually had some tension on it this time, instead of being able to just pull it off like I did at the beginning. Now, because I was up on my roof at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's 100+ degrees, and I didn't have the vent cleaning brush yet, I just cleaned out the cap and went ahead and put it back on. However, if I had it to do over, I would have left the cap off of the roof and that way when I ran this brush up through the vent tube, I could poke it all the way out through the top, and that way I know that I cleaned the entire thing out. Since I didn't have the lid off and make sure that went up all the way to the top, I did some math. I used 11 of these rods. They were 17 inches a piece. That ends up to be about 15.5 feet. I've got 9-foot ceilings and it's on a slope in the attic, so I'm pretty sure I made it all the way to that final bend up at the top, and I cleaned the rest of that out by hand when I was up on the roof reaching in from the other side. So the use of this tool is pretty self-explanatory. I threaded the brush on the one end, then started pushing it up into the vent. As you go, you thread more and more rods up on there and just keep going until you reach the top of your vent tube. So one thing I didn't realize is there is an actual drill bit adapter that threads into the rods. So I ended up threading all my rods together and just kind of moving them up and down a little bit as I went until I reached the top. Then I attached the drill bit piece and ran the drill coming down with the rods. So with this kit, you could only spin the drill clockwise, otherwise you would unthread the rods as soon as you pulled the trigger. What I ended up doing, which worked out nicely, is I just left the drill adapter in the drill and then unthreaded it using the trigger, then removed a rod, threaded it back on using the drill, ran the drill up and down until I no longer had lint falling down out of the vent tube, and then I repeated that process until I was completely down and out of the vent tube. So as I was running the drill up and down, I used my hand as a guide for the rod so it wouldn't get bent out of shape. I started out by doing one rod at a time. However, I did figure out I could pull enough slack out and keep it steady enough, doing 2 at a time, so that did move faster. Irregardless, it didn't take much time anyways, not including moving the dryer out and disconnecting the hoses, but just the actual cleaning itself took me about 10 minutes to complete. So one thing I will specify is there's no point in cleaning out your air vent tubing if it is going up through the roof without taking the time to go up on the roof and check that cap, because most likely that cap is where the clog is going to start, and there's no point in cleaning out the vent tube if you don't take away the restriction, because it's just going to clog back up again. So all that's left to do after that is go ahead and clean up the mess and go ahead and hook my duct back from the wall to the dryer. When hooking up the hose to either the wall or your dryer, I find it easier to move the clamp back on the hose out of the way, then get the hose put either on your vent tube or on the dryer itself, then move the clamp up in position to hold it on. Then go ahead and plug it in. And then when you do back your dryer back up to the wall, make sure that you are not kinking or compressing that duct and possibly create a restriction that you just rectified by cleaning out your air vent. So from now on, when I go up to put Christmas lights on my roof every year, I'm going to make sure I take a look at that air vent and make sure it's not even remotely clogged. If it is, I've already got the tool to take care of it, and it won't be over 100 degrees outside. Not to mention the fact that it is a fire hazard to have that clog like that, and it will increase the performance of your dryer. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and it gave you some good information. If so, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. The whole concept of my channel is to give you guys the most information in the least amount of time as possible so I don't waste your time. And I hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Later.